A man in a gray overcoat walks through Terminal 4 with a single leather briefcase. Inside, $47,000 in cash, 2 forged passports, and a one-way ticket to Vienna. Behind him, 3 FBI special agents close the distance. What began 18 months earlier as a favor for a friend has become the largest counterintelligence failure at the State Department since the Rosenberg trial. Tonight, it ends at Gate 17. March 1985. Michael Sheridan is 41 years old, a mid-level intelligence analyst at the State Department's Bureau of Intelligence and Research. He works in a windowless office on the 3rd floor of the Harry S. Truman Building in Foggy Bottom, synthesizing cable traffic from U.S. embassies across Eastern Europe. His job is to read, assess, and summarize, a position that grants him access to classified assessments on Soviet military deployments, diplomatic communications, and intelligence source networks. He lives in a modest split level in Arlington, Virginia. His wife, Janet, teaches elementary school. They have 2 daughters, Emily, 14, and Sarah, 11. The family drives a 1982 Honda Accord with a dented rear bumper. On weekends, Michael coaches Sarah's soccer team. He volunteers at the local library on Thursday evenings, shelving books and helping patrons with reference questions. His colleagues describe him as dependable, thorough, and unmemorable, the kind of analyst who arrives at 8:15 a.m., eats lunch at his desk, and leaves at 5:30 p.m. without fanfare. But in March of 1985, Michael Sheridan's finances are unraveling. His mother, diagnosed with late-stage pancreatic cancer the previous November, requires round-the-clock hospice care in Bethesda. Medicare covers a fraction. The hospice facility charges $3,800 per week, $15,200 monthly, for nursing care, medications, and pain management. Janet's teaching salary is $28,000 annually. The mortgage on their Arlington home is $890 per month. By February, they have maxed out 2 credit cards totaling $22,000 in debt and taken a second mortgage on the house for $46,000. Collection agencies call during dinner. Michael stops answering the phone. He does not tell Janet how bad it is. At night, he sits in the basement with a calculator and a stack of bills, running the same arithmetic over and over. The numbers never change. He needs $68,000 to clear the debt and cover 6 more months of hospice care. His government salary is $52,000 per year, before taxes. His savings account holds $1,847. He has no inheritance, no trust fund, no wealthy relatives. He is drowning. March 14, 1985. The Hamilton, Washington, D.C., 7:15 p.m. Michael meets an old college acquaintance for dinner. The man's name is Peter Volkov, though Michael knows him as Peter Walsh from their shared undergraduate years at Georgetown. Volkov now works as a cultural attaché at the Soviet Embassy on Wisconsin Avenue, a position Michael understands to be diplomatic cover. They have not spoken in 12 years. The reunion is Volkov's idea. A phone call to Michael's office, casual and warm. "I'm in town for a few months. Let's catch up. Remember that seminar on Eastern European history, Professor Brennan? Good times." Over steak and scotch at a corner booth, Volkov is solicitous. He asks about Michael's family, his career, his mother's health. Michael, exhausted and slightly drunk, confesses the financial strain. The words tumble out: hospice bills, maxed credit cards, the second mortgage, Janet's worry, the shame of failing to provide. Volkov listens with practiced sympathy, nodding at appropriate moments, refilling Michael's glass. As they settle the check, Volkov leans in. "If you ever need help, Michael, I mean real help, call me. No judgment. Friends take care of friends." He slides a business card across the table. The number is not listed in any directory. The card is plain white, no embassy logo, just a handwritten phone number in blue ink. Michael pockets the card and thanks him. They shake hands. Michael drives home, parks in the driveway, and sits in the dark for 20 minutes before going inside. April 1985. Michael does not call. But the debt does not go away. His mother's condition worsens. She is moved to intensive hospice care. $5,200 per week. The bills arrive weekly, each one stamped in red. Past due. Janet begins to ask questions about the loan Michael claimed the State Department credit union approved. She wants to see the paperwork. Michael tells her it's being processed. It is. A lie. At work, Michael notices a pattern in the classified cable traffic. A new intelligence source, codenamed Cardinal, is providing high-value intelligence from within the Soviet Ministry of Defense. The reports cross Michael's desk weekly: troop movements in East Germany, missile deployment schedules, internal communications between Soviet generals and the Politburo. Cardinal's intelligence is specific, actionable, and vetted by CIA analysts as highly reliable. Michael is one of perhaps 20 analysts with direct access to Cardinal's identity and operational details. The weight of the secret is almost comforting. In a life collapsing under financial pressure, at least he knows something important. On April 22nd, Michael retrieves Volkov's business card from his wallet. He stares at it for an hour. He imagines the conversation. "I need money. Can you help?" The humiliation is paralyzing, but so is the debt. He calls the number at 9:30 p.m. from a payphone outside a 7-Eleven in McLean, using quarters he counted out in advance. Volkov answers on the second ring. "Michael, I was hoping you'd call." May 3rd, 1985. Rock Creek Park, 6:45 a.m. They meet on a jogging path near the Pierce Mill. Volkov wears a navy tracksuit and sunglasses. Michael wears running shoes he bought the night before at a Foot Locker. $42.99, added to a credit card he promised himself he would not use again. Volkov speaks in low, even tones as they walk. "I know you're in a difficult position. Your mother's care is expensive. You're a good son, a good husband. You shouldn't have to suffer because of medical bills." Michael says nothing. His throat is tight. Volkov continues. "We're prepared to pay you $10,000 today. No strings. A gift between friends." "For what?" "For nothing. Consider it a loan. Repay it whenever you're able." "Wait, don't. I understand what you're going through." Michael's hands are shaking. "And if I can't repay it?" Volkov smiles, warm and avuncular. "Then perhaps you'll do me a favor someday. Something small, harmless, but that's the future. Today, you have a problem. Let me solve it." He hands Michael a manila envelope. Inside, 100 crisp $100 bills, still banded from the bank. Michael holds the envelope like it might explode. "Take it home," Volkov says. "Think about it. If you're uncomfortable, call me and we'll meet again. You can return it. No consequences." Michael drives home with the envelope on the passenger seat. He deposits $8,000 across 2 bank accounts that afternoon, $4,000 in each, staying below the $10,000 reporting threshold. He pays down the Visa card and the MasterCard. He keeps $2,000 in cash, hidden in a shoebox in the basement. That night, he sleeps for the first time in weeks. Tradecraft, the soft recruitment. Soviet intelligence services, primarily the KGB's first chief directorate, refined the art of recruitment over decades of Cold War operations. The initial approach is never transactional. It's relational. Identify vulnerability, financial distress, marital problems, professional resentment, ideological disillusionment. Establish trust through personal connection, and offer support without demanding immediate reciprocation. The target is allowed to acclimate, to rationalize the first compromise as something other than betrayal. The psychological principle is simple. Once the target accepts the first payment, the relationship shifts. They owe a debt, not legally, but morally, emotionally. The handler exploits this. The second request is framed as repayment, a small favor to balance the scales. By the time the target realizes they have crossed into espionage, retreat is impossible. The compromat, the compromising material, already exists. By accepting the first payment, Michael Sheridan has crossed a threshold he does not yet fully comprehend. June 1985. Michael pays down $8,000 in credit card debt and makes 2 months of advance payments on the second mortgage. He tells Janet the State Department loan came through, $15,000 at 4% interest, deducted from his paycheck over 3 years. She is relieved, but puzzled. He provides no paperwork, no loan documents. Michael changes the subject, suggests they take the girls to the Smithsonian on Saturday. Janet lets it drop. Volkov does not contact him for 3 weeks. Michael begins to hope the transaction was exactly what Volkov claimed. A gift, no strings attached. He almost believes it. When the call comes on June 18th, it is brief. "Let's meet." Same place, tomorrow morning. Bring something to read. June 19th, 1985, Rock Creek Park, 6:30 a.m. Volkov hands Michael a folded copy of the Washington Post. Inside the sports section, a typed list of questions on plain white paper. No letterhead, no identifying marks. What is the current State Department assessment of Soviet intermediate-range missile deployments in East Germany? Has State received any communication from Embassy Moscow regarding General Secretary Gorbachev's internal policy discussions on economic reform? Are there any active human sources within the Soviet Ministry of Defense reported in recent cable traffic? Michael feels his chest tighten. His vision narrows. This is harmless, Volkov says, his voice calm and reassuring. Publicly available assessments, background context, nothing classified. You summarize this material every day. It's your job. I'm just asking you to share the same analysis you'd give to a journalist or a think tank researcher. I can't. Michael, you've already accepted our money. $10,000. If you're uncomfortable, return it. With interest, of course. Say, $15,000. Do you have $15,000? Michael does not have $15,000. He does not have $1,000. The credit cards are paid down, but not cleared. The hospice bills continue. His mother's pain medication alone costs $800 per week. He takes the list home. That night, in his basement office, after Janet and the girls have gone to bed, he drafts answers in longhand on a yellow legal pad. He keeps the language vague, unattributable, framed as general knowledge. He tells himself this is not espionage, it is information Volkov could obtain from open-source journals, congressional testimony, and think tank reports. He tells himself no one will be harmed. He is lying to himself, and some part of him knows it. July 1985. The escalation. Volkov is pleased with Michael's first report. The payment, $5,000 cash. Delivered in a manila envelope at a Georgetown parking garage on July 8th at 9 p.m. They meet on the third level, near the stairwell. The exchange takes 12 seconds. Michael deposits the money the next morning, splitting it across 3 accounts. The next request arrives 2 weeks later, handwritten on a napkin passed to Michael in a coffee shop near DuPont Circle. Provide copies of any cables referencing Cardinal. Michael's stomach drops. Cardinal is a classified intelligence asset, a human source inside the Soviet government, sharing operational details, identity, communications, intelligence product, is a federal crime under the Espionage Act. Conviction carries a potential life sentence. The statute is explicit. Anyone who transmits classified information to a foreign power with intent to injure the United States can be sentenced to death. But Michael's mother is dying. The hospice costs are now $4,200 per week, due to increased morphine dosages and specialized nursing care. Janet is asking why the loan isn't covering the bills. Emily needs braces, $3,200 for the full treatment. Sarah's school is requesting a $400 deposit for a class trip to Philadelphia. Michael's paycheck, after taxes and the fictional loan deductions he claims to Janet, barely covers groceries and utilities. On July 18th, Michael smuggles a classified cable out of the Truman Building. The document is marked top secret, no foreign distribution. It details Cardinal's latest intelligence report. Soviet plans to deploy SS-20 missiles to forward positions in Czechoslovakia within 6 weeks. Michael folds the cable into a copy of Time magazine and carries it past the security desk in his gym bag. That night, he photographs the document with a 35mm camera Volkov provided during their last meeting, a Minox C, standard KGB issue, small enough to conceal in a closed fist. The camera uses specialized high-contrast film that captures documents clearly, even in low light. He drops the film canister in a dead-drop location, a hollowed-out stone beneath a park bench near the Lincoln Memorial, marked with a piece of white chalk on a nearby lamppost to signal the drop is ready for pickup. The payment, retrieved from a different dead drop 2 days later, $12,000 in used bills, non-sequential serial numbers. Michael Sheridan has become a spy. August 1985. The betrayal. Cardinal is executed. The report reaches Michael's desk on August 9th. Buried in the morning cable traffic from Embassy Moscow. Cardinal communications have ceased. Station assesses source likely compromised. Awaiting confirmation. The classified addendum, which Michael reads in a locked vault on the second floor, is explicit. Cardinal was Colonel Sergei Voronin, a decorated officer in Soviet military intelligence, GRU. He was arrested at his Moscow apartment on July 24th at 3 a.m. by by KGB counterintelligence officers. He was interrogated for 9 days at Lefortovo prison. On August 3rd, he was executed by firing squad in the basement of Lubyanka. His wife and 2 teenage children were relocated to a labor camp in Siberia. The CIA lost its most valuable source inside the Soviet Ministry of Defense. Michael does not sleep for 3 days. He vomits twice in the State Department men's room. He cannot eat. Janet asks if he has the flu. He nods and retreats to the basement. Volkov calls on August 12th. They meet at a different location, a parking lot behind a Safeway in Alexandria near the loading docks. "You did the right thing," Volkov says, his voice firm and paternal. "Cardinal was feeding you disinformation. Bad intelligence. Your government was about to make a serious strategic error based on his lies. You saved your country from acting on false information. You should be proud. It is a lie, and Michael knows it. But he has already accepted $27,000. He has already signed his name in invisible ink across the Espionage Act. Stopping now means exposure, arrest, trial, imprisonment. His family will lose everything. Janet will lose the house. Emily and Sarah will grow up as the daughters of a traitor." So he continues, because stopping is no longer an option. Tradecraft, the dead drop. A dead drop is a covert method of transferring material between a case officer and an asset without direct contact. The asset places the material, documents, microfilm, cash, in a prearranged concealment device, a hollowed rock, a magnetized container affixed beneath a park bench, a false brick in a cemetery wall, a discarded soda can with a screw-top bottom. The case officer retrieves it hours or days later, after the asset has left the area. If surveillance is present, there is no meeting to observe, no exchange to photograph, no eye contact that might trigger suspicion. Michael Sheridan's dead drop sites rotate weekly to prevent pattern recognition. Rock Creek Park, Theodore Roosevelt Island, a cemetery in Falls Church, a rest stop on the George Washington Parkway. Each location is scouted in advance by KGB officers posing as diplomats, evaluated for sightlines, foot traffic, and accessibility. The FBI, unaware of Michael's activity, monitors the Soviet embassy but does not yet connect the dots. The surveillance resources required to track every Soviet diplomat every day exceed the Bureau's capacity. Michael slips through the gaps. September 1985, January 1986. The routine. Michael develops a rhythm, a procedural calm that borders on dissociation. Every 2 weeks, Volkov provides a list of requests via dead drop or brief encounters in public spaces, coffee shops, bookstores, metro stations. Michael photographs classified cables, intelligence assessments, and source reports. He delivers the film to rotating dead drop sites, marked with chalk signals or arranged stones to indicate the drop is ready. The payments increase, $15,000 per drop, delivered in weatherproof bags hidden in the same locations. By November, Michael has received $94,000. He opens a separate bank account under his mother's maiden name, an account Janet does not know exists. He pays off the mortgage entirely, surprising Janet with the news over dinner. She cries with relief. He buys her a used BMW 325i for her birthday, $8,200 paid in cash at a dealership in Rockville. He tells her the State Department awarded him a performance bonus for exceptional work on a classified project. She does not question it. Why would she? Her husband is finally succeeding. At work, Michael is meticulous. He varies his document access patterns, never requesting files outside his normal analytical portfolio. He smuggles materials in his gym bag, his briefcase, once in a hollowed-out thermos with a false bottom. He begins to carry a second wallet, one without family photos or personal identification, in case he is stopped and searched. He stops coaching Sarah's soccer team, claiming work pressure. He drinks alone in his basement office, scotch, straight, 2 glasses per night, sometimes 3. He gains 15 pounds. His hands develop a slight tremor. Janet asks if he is having an affair. He almost laughs. He wishes he were. An affair would be simpler, more forgivable. February 1986, the FBI investigation begins. The FBI's Washington field office opens a damage assessment following Cardinal's execution. Counterintelligence analysts review the list of personnel with access to Cardinal's identity and operational communications. Michael Sheridan is one of 43 names. The initial review focuses on individuals with financial stress, foreign contacts, or behavioral anomalies. Michael appears unremarkable. Married, stable employment, no criminal record, no known foreign travel. But the FBI applies standard investigative protocol, financial records analysis, phone records review, and surveillance of high-risk individuals. On February 11th, an FBI forensic accountant named Margaret Dawson flags Michael's credit card payments. Between May and November 1985, Michael deposited $58,000 in cash across 3 bank accounts, Citibank, Bank of America, and a small credit union in Falls Church. His stated salary, $52,000 per year before taxes. Even with overtime and bonuses, the deposits are inexplicable. On February 18th, the FBI places Michael under periodic surveillance. The team, Special Agents Thomas Callahan, Maria Torres, and David Lynn, operates in rotating shifts, using 4 different vehicles and changing personnel daily to avoid detection. March 1986, The Watchers. Michael does not notice the surveillance. He is too preoccupied with maintaining the fiction of his double life. The FBI team is patient and professional. They do not follow Michael daily, only during high-probability windows, early mornings, late evenings, weekends, times when dead drops are most likely. On March 6th, they observe Michael entering Rock Creek Park at 6:42 a.m. He jogs for 12 minutes along the main path, then stops at a bench near Pierce Mill. He ties his shoe, a mundane action, except that his shoes use slip-on Velcro straps, not laces. 30 seconds later, he continues jogging and exits the park. Agent Torres approaches the bench after Michael leaves. Beneath it, a hollowed stone the size of a grapefruit. Inside, a 35mm film canister. The FBI does not retrieve it. Instead, they photograph the location, note the time, and withdraw. They install a concealed camera in a tree overlooking the bench, angled to capture anyone who approaches. At 2:17 p.m., a man in a charcoal suit retrieves the canister. The camera captures his face clearly. The FBI identifies him within an hour. Dmitry Orlov, trade representative at the Soviet embassy, known KGB officer operating under diplomatic cover. The FBI now has proof of espionage tradecraft. They do not yet have proof of Michael's intent or the content of the material, but the net is tightening. April, June 1986. The trap. The FBI allows Michael to continue. The goal is not simply to arrest one analyst. The goal is to identify his handler, map the full intelligence network, and build an airtight legal case that will withstand appeal. Espionage convictions require proof beyond reasonable doubt, evidence of intent, evidence of harm to national security, evidence of coordination with a foreign power. They bug Michael's home phone with a FISA warrant approved by the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court. They obtain additional warrants for his office phone and the listening device installed in his car. They install a second camera overlooking his primary dead drop site in Rock Creek Park, this one equipped with night vision capability. On May 14th, Dmitry Orlov retrieves a canister from the dead drop at 11:52 p.m. The FBI photographs the entire sequence in infrared. Orlov carries the canister to his car, a black Volvo with diplomatic plates, and drives directly to the Soviet embassy on Wisconsin Avenue. On June 3rd, Michael meets Volkov at a restaurant in Georgetown, Martin's Tavern, a historic establishment where politicians and diplomats have conducted quiet conversations for decades. The FBI records the conversation via a directional microphone aimed from a parked van across the street. Volkov is cautious. He never mentions classified information directly, never uses terms like documents or intelligence. But he passes Michael an envelope beneath the table. Michael counts the cash in his car 3 blocks away, $18,000. The FBI now has evidence of conspiracy, espionage under 18 U.S.C. Section 794, and financial transactions with a hostile intelligence service. But they wait. They want the exfiltration attempt. They want Michael to run. August 1986, the exfiltration plan. Michael begins to unravel. At work, the State Department's Office of Security announces increased counterintelligence reviews. Polygraph examinations will be administered to all personnel with access to cardinal-related materials. A colleague mentions, casually, that FBI agents have been asking questions about financial irregularities. Michael's hands shake during a staff meeting. He excuses himself and vomits in the bathroom. That night, he calls Volkov from a payphone near a shopping mall in Tyson's Corner. "I need to stop. This is too dangerous. They're investigating." Volkov's voice is calm, measured, almost soothing. "Michael, you're safe. Trust me. These reviews are routine. You've done nothing to attract attention. I want out. A pause. Michael hears traffic in the background on Volkov's end. Then, if you're serious, we can arrange something. A transfer, relocation. You'd need to leave the country, of course. What? We'll take care of you. New identity, residence in Europe. Vienna, most likely. Good city, safe. Your family can join you later, once things settle down. Michael's mind races. How? One-way flight. We provide the documents, the ticket, the cash. You fly out, someone meets you at the airport, and we begin the transition. 6 months later, we arrange for Janet and the girls. You tell them you're attending a conference. By the time they realize, you're safe, and we bring them. Over. Michael does not respond. His hand holding the phone is slick with sweat. Volkov continues. Think about what happens if you stay. If you're arrested, what then? Federal prison. Life sentence, possibly. Your daughters grow up visiting you behind glass. Janet loses the house, her job, everything. Or you leave now, start over, and we protect you. It's not ideal, but it's survival. Michael hangs up. He sits in his car for 40 minutes, staring at nothing. Then, he drives home. But the seed is planted. In his basement that night, he drafts a list. What I need to bring. What I need to tell Janet. How to explain. The list is a fantasy, but it becomes a plan. September 1986. The decision. Michael's mother dies on September 8th at 4:22 a.m. Michael is beside her, holding her hand. Janet arrives 20 minutes later. The funeral is small, 30 people, mostly Janet's relatives and a few State Department colleagues. Emily cries through the entire service. Sarah is silent, staring at the closed casket with dry eyes. Afterward, Michael meets Volkov in a hotel bar near DuPont Circle. The Mayflower Hotel. Dim lighting, mahogany panels, leather booths. They sit in the back corner. I'll do it. Get me out. Volkov nods, unsurprised. Vienna. Austrian Airlines, Flight 442. September 22nd. Departs JFK at 1:15 a.m. We'll have someone meet you at Schweikat Airport. Bring nothing that connects you to your old life. No photos, no letters, nothing sentimental. We'll provide new documents. Passport, driver's license, birth certificate. Klaus Reinhardt, Austrian national, born in Graz. Michael asks, what about Janet, the girls? Give us 6 months. We'll arrange their travel through a third country. Canada, most likely. Tell them you're attending a NATO conference in Brussels. By the time they realize you're not coming back, you'll be safe, and we'll already be working on their extraction. It is a lie. Michael will never see his family again. Volkov knows this. The KGB has no intention of extracting an American wife and 2 teenage daughters. But Michael does not know this yet. He wants to believe it, so he does. September 22nd, 1986, Arlington, Virginia, 7:30 p.m. Michael tells Janet he has a work trip, a NATO intelligence sharing conference in Brussels. 3 days, routine. She kisses him goodbye in the driveway. Emily is at a friend's house studying for a biology exam. Sarah is watching The Cosby Show in the living room. Michael hugs her for too long. She asks if he's okay. He says he's fine, just tired. Michael places a single leather briefcase in the trunk of his car. Inside, $47,000 in cash, 2 forged passports, 1 Austrian bearing the name Klaus Reinhardt, 1 Canadian as backup, the plane ticket to Vienna, a handwritten letter to Janet, sealed in an envelope, and a small photograph of his daughters he cannot bring himself to leave behind. The letter explains nothing. It says only, I'm sorry. I had no choice. Please forgive me. He drives to Washington National Airport and boards a 9:00 p.m. U.S. air shuttle to New York. The flight is 38 minutes. He does not speak to anyone. September 22nd, 1986, JFK International Airport, Terminal 4, 11:23 p.m. Michael checks in at the Austrian Airlines counter. The gate agent, a young woman with blonde hair pulled into a tight bun, processes his ticket without comment. His forged passport, Austrian, bearing the name Klaus Reinhardt, birth date March 14, 1945, passes inspection. She hands him a boarding pass and wishes him a pleasant flight. Michael proceeds through security, then toward Gate 17. The terminal is quiet. Most passengers are business travelers, reading newspapers or sleeping in chairs. Michael buys a cup of coffee he does not drink. His hands are shaking. He checks his watch. 11:41 p.m. Boarding begins in 19 minutes. FBI Special Agents Callahan, Torres, and Lynn are waiting near the gate, dressed in civilian clothes. They have been coordinating with JFK Port Authority Police and the State Department's Diplomatic Security Service since 9 p.m. The decision to arrest Michael at the airport rather than at home was deliberate. A public arrest minimizes the risk of violence, and the presence of the forged passport provides additional evidence of intent to flee. 11:47 p.m. Gate 17. Michael is 50 feet from the jetway when Agent Callahan steps into his path. Callahan is tall, mid-40s, gray suit, expressionless. Michael Sheridan? Michael stops. His pulse hammers. In his ears. He considers running, but there's nowhere to go. 2 Port Authority officers stand near the jetway entrance. Another FBI agent is positioned behind him. "I'm Klaus. We know who you are," Callahan says. "Please, come with us." Agent Torres appears at Michael's left, Agent Lynn at his right. Torres places a hand on Michael's shoulder, not forceful, but firm. Lynn takes the briefcase from Michael's hand. Michael's legs buckle. He is guided to a private security office adjacent to the gate, a small room with concrete walls, a metal table, and 4 chairs. 11:52 p.m. The interrogation begins. Agent Callahan places the briefcase on the metal table and opens it. He removes each item methodically. The cash, banded in stacks of $5,000. The 2 forged passports, the plane ticket, the letter. $47,000 in cash. 2 forged passports. One-way ticket to Vienna. Want to explain? Michael says nothing. His mouth is dry. He stares at the table. Callahan lays out a series of photographs, arranging them in a row. Michael at the dead drop site in Rock Creek Park, March 6, 1986. Dmitry Orlov retrieving the canister, May 14, 1986. Michael meeting Volkov at Martin's Tavern, June 3, 1986. A bank deposit slip showing $15,000 cash, July 1985. "We've been watching you since February," Callahan says. His voice is flat, clinical. "We have recordings of your meetings with Volkov, financial records showing $94,000 in unexplained deposits, and testimony from 3 State Department colleagues who will confirm your access to cardinal materials. You've been passing classified intelligence to the KGB for 18 months. Cardinal is dead because of you. His wife and children are in a labor camp. We have everything, Michael." Michael closes his eyes. Tears run down his face, silent. "I want a lawyer." Callahan nods. "You're entitled to one. But understand, this is not a negotiation. We're not offering a deal. You're under arrest for espionage. The evidence is overwhelming. The best thing you can do now is cooperate fully and hope the judge considers it during sentencing." Michael is read his Miranda rights at 11:58 p.m. He is handcuffed, escorted through a service corridor to avoid passengers, and placed in an unmarked FBI vehicle. By 12:47 a.m., he is in a holding cell at the FBI's New York field office in Lower Manhattan. At 1:15 a.m., Austrian Airlines Flight 442 departs for Vienna. Seat 14A, Klaus Reinhardt's seat, remains empty. Aftermath. The legal collapse. Michael Sheridan is arraigned on September 24, 1986, in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia. The charges: conspiracy to commit espionage, transmission of classified information to a foreign power, violations of 18 U.S.C. Section 794, gathering and transmitting defense information, and violations of 18 U.S.C. Section 798, disclosure of classified information. He pleads not guilty on the advice of his court-appointed attorney, a public defender named Richard Moss, who specializes in federal criminal defense. The trial begins on March 3, 1987. The prosecution, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Laura Hendricks, presents overwhelming evidence. Financial records showing $94,000 in unexplained deposits, surveillance footage of dead drop operations, intercepted phone calls between Michael and Volkov, and testimony from FBI agents who observed the entire operation. The defense argues duress. Michael acted under financial desperation and KGB coercion, and claims entrapment, though the FBI's evidence predates their active surveillance. The jury deliberates for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Sentencing, April 15, 1987. Judge Harold Whitman delivers the sentence in a packed courtroom. Janet sits in the gallery, flanked by her sister. Emily and Sarah are not present. Mr. Sheridan, Judge Whitman says, you betrayed your country for money. A man died because of your actions. A courageous man who risked his life to provide intelligence that protected American interests. His family suffers because of your greed. You will spend the rest of your productive life in federal prison. The sentence of this court is 40 years in federal custody, with no possibility of parole before 25 years served. Michael does not react. He stands, staring at the judge, his face blank. Janet weeps silently, her hands covering her mouth. The bailiff leads Michael away. Janet files for divorce in May 1987. The papers are delivered to Michael at FBI Petersburg, a medium-security federal prison in Virginia. He signs them without contest. Janet reverts to her maiden name, Janet Calloway. She sells the Arlington house and moves to North Carolina, where her sister lives. She finds work as a school librarian. Emily changes her last name legally at age 18, 2 weeks after graduating high school. She becomes Emily Calloway. She attends the University of Virginia on a scholarship, studies biology, and becomes a nurse. She never visits her father. Sarah changes her name at 16 through a court petition Janet files on her behalf. She becomes Sarah Calloway. She studies abroad during college, teaches English in South Korea for 3 years, and eventually settles in Portland, Oregon. She never speaks publicly about her father. When asked, she says her father died in a car accident in 1987. They never visit Michael in prison, not once in 25 years. The intelligence damage. In the months following Michael's arrest, the CIA and State Department conduct a comprehensive damage assessment. The findings, partially declassified in 2003, are devastating. Michael Sheridan compromised at least 47 classified intelligence reports between May 1985 and September 1986. Colonel Sergei Vornin was the CIA's most valuable human intelligence source inside Soviet military intelligence. His reporting prevented a potential nuclear miscalculation during the 1986 Reykjavik summit, where President Reagan and General Secretary Gorbachev negotiated arms reduction. Voronin's intelligence confirmed that Soviet intermediate-range missile deployments were defensive, not offensive, intelligence that moderated U.S. response strategies. Michael's betrayal exposed 3 additional CIA assets operating in Eastern Europe. 2 were arrested, 1 disappeared, and is presumed dead. The KGB used Michael's stolen documents to identify gaps in U.S. intelligence collection, allowing them to improve operational security and deceive American analysts with false information for nearly 18 months after his arrest. The total estimated damage: irreparable harm to U.S.-Soviet diplomatic negotiations, the loss of 4 intelligence sources, and a 2-year setback in American understanding of Soviet military capabilities. The handler's Peter Volkov, the KGB case officer who recruited Michael, was expelled from the United States on October 3, 1986, under diplomatic immunity. The State Department declared him persona non grata and gave him 72 hours to leave the country. He returned to Moscow, where he was promoted to deputy chief of the KGB's North American Operations Division. In 1991, he received the Order of the Red Banner, the Soviet Union's second-highest military decoration, for his role in the operation. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, he transitioned to the Federal Security Service, FSB, and served as a consultant on counterintelligence until his retirement in 2002. He died of a heart attack in Moscow on March 17, 2004, at age 68. His obituary in Izvestia made no mention of his intelligence career. Dmitry Orlov, the KGB officer who serviced Michael's dead drops, returned to the Soviet Union in October 1986, weeks before Michael's arrest. U.S. intelligence assessed that his recall was precautionary. The KGB suspected American counterintelligence was closing in. Orlov later served as deputy director of the FSB's Second Service, Counterintelligence. From 1998 to 2007, he lives in Moscow. In a 2011 interview with a Russian newspaper, he described his time in Washington as educational, but declined to discuss specific operations. The FBI's operation to identify and arrest Michael Sheridan, codenamed Nightfall, is now taught as a case study at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Virginia. The investigation demonstrated the effectiveness of financial records analysis in counterintelligence work. Special Agent Thomas Callahan, who led the surveillance team, was promoted to supervisory special agent and later served as section chief for the FBI's counterintelligence division. In a 2009 interview, he reflected on the case. Sheridan wasn't ideologue. He wasn't motivated by politics or revenge. He was just a man in debt who made a terrible choice. The tragedy is that he could have asked for help. The State Department has financial assistance programs, employee support services, but he was too ashamed. Pride destroyed him, and it cost lives. Agent Maria Torres, who photographed the dead drop site in Rock Creek Park, retired from the FBI in 2003 and now teaches criminal justice at George Mason University. Agent David Lynn left the Bureau in 1995 and works as a private security consultant. The reforms Michael Sheridan's betrayal prompted significant reforms in U.S. government security protocols. Enhanced financial monitoring. All employees with access to classified information above the secret level are now subject to random financial audits. Unexplained deposits or sudden debt reduction trigger automatic security reviews. Mandatory reporting. Federal employees are required to report any contact with foreign nationals, including casual encounters and renewed friendships with individuals now working for foreign governments. Polygraph expansion. Routine polygraph examinations were expanded to include questions about unreported income and financial stress, not just unauthorized disclosure of classified information. Support programs. The State Department and intelligence agencies established confidential financial counseling services for employees facing economic hardship, aimed at preventing recruitment by foreign intelligence services. These reforms, implemented between 1987 and 1990, are credited with preventing several subsequent espionage attempts. But they came too late for Colonel Sergei Voronin and his family. Michael Sheridan is incarcerated at USP Lewisburg, a high-security federal penitentiary in Pennsylvania. He is transferred to a medium-security facility, FCI Cumberland, in Maryland in 2003 after demonstrating good behavior and completing vocational training programs in electrical work and plumbing. As of 2011, he is 68 years old. His hair is white. He wears reading glasses. He works in the prison library, shelving books and helping younger inmates prepare for GED examinations. The same work he did as a volunteer in Arlington a lifetime ago. Parole hearings in 2011 and 2015 are denied. The parole board's decision in 2015 cites the extraordinary harm inflicted on U.S. national security and the loss of life directly attributable to the defendant's actions. Michael does not appeal. His next parole hearing is scheduled for 2020. He has no visitors. Janet Calloway remarried in 1994. A high school principal named Robert Hendricks. Emily is a pediatric nurse in Richmond, Virginia, married with 2 children. Sarah teaches creative writing at a community college in Portland and publishes poetry under a pseudonym. Neither daughter has spoken to Michael since 1987. They do not know if he is still alive. They do not ask. In 2009, a journalist writing a book on Cold War espionage requests an interview with Michael through the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Michael declines. The journalist sends a list of written questions. Michael returns the questionnaire with a single sentence written at the bottom. I have nothing to say that would matter to anyone. The bench at Rock Creek Park, the park bench near Pierce Mill, where Michael Sheridan made his first dead drop on July 18, 1985, is still there. The hollowed stone is gone, removed by the FBI as evidence and never replaced. Joggers pass the bench every morning. Tourists sit there to rest, to drink water, to take photographs of the creek. None of them know what happened there. In 1997, the National Park Service installed a small plaque on a nearby tree, commemorating the history of the Pierce Mill and its role in 19th century Washington. The plaque makes no mention of espionage, no reference to the Cold War, no acknowledgement that 40 feet away, a man betrayed his country and set in motion a series of events that ended with an execution in Moscow and a family shattered in Virginia. History is like that. The ordinary places where extraordinary betrayals occur remain ordinary. The bench is just a bench. The park is just a park. And the man who once knelt there, hands shaking as he hid a film canister beneath a stone, is just a number in a federal prison, serving year 25 of a 40-year sentence, invisible to everyone except himself. At Gate 17, John F. Kennedy International Airport, Terminal 4, Gate 17. Every night, passengers board Austrian Airlines Flight 442 to Vienna. The gate agent scans tickets, checks passports, and waves travelers through. The jetway extends. The aircraft doors close. The plane taxis to the runway and lifts into the darkness, carrying businessmen and tourists and students toward Europe. The gate agent does not know that 36 years ago, a man stood in that exact spot, 50 feet from the jetway, 50 feet from escape, and lost everything. She does not know that FBI agents arrested him here, that his hands were cuffed behind his back, that he wept as they led him away. She does not know that his wife and daughters would spend the rest of their lives trying to forget he existed. She scans the next boarding pass and smiles. Have a pleasant flight. The passenger thanks her and walks toward the jetway. The door closes. The plane departs. At 1:15 a.m., Seat 14A is occupied by a software engineer from Munich, returning home from a business conference. He reclines his seat, closes his eyes, and sleeps. The seat does not remember Klaus Reinhardt. The gate does not remember Michael Sheridan. Only the FBI file remembers. Case number 864472. Espionage. Conviction. 40 years. The file sits in a locked cabinet at the Washington field office. One folder among thousands, a single line in the long catalog of betrayals that define the Cold War. The paper has yellowed, the photographs have faded, but the words remain. Subject, Michael James Sheridan. Status, incarcerated. Remarks, asset recruitment via financial exploitation. Source compromise resulted in execution of foreign intelligence asset, Cardinal. Colonel Sergei Voronin, GRU. Damage assessment, critical. Case closed. And somewhere in Maryland, in a prison library, a 68-year-old man shelves books and remembers a morning in Rock Creek Park when he believed $10,000 could solve all his problems and did not understand that some debts can never be repaid.